morning. Welcome to our community meditation, and good morning to everybody who's joining us online, wherever and whenever you are. Thank you all for being with us as we connect in consciousness today. I'm Kelly Kapsar, and I'll be your practitioner for the day. And if you can take a moment and silence your cell phones. Here we go, thank you. And this meditation is a blend of spoken word and silence, accompanied by some beautiful music. Will last approximately 15 minutes. So, first thing I invite you to do is simply relax back into your seat. And notice the support of the chair at your back. As always, you can keep your eyes closed or you can keep them open. And notice the support of the seat under your hips. And notice the support of the earth under the building, under the seat. And I invite you to notice your breath moving into and out of your lungs, all the way in and all the way out. And let your breath, that inspiration, that divine inspiration of life, move into all the parts of your lungs. Many of us tend to be fairly shallow breathers. And so invite that breath into the bottoms of your lungs, the backs of your lungs, the far sides of your lungs. And invite your breath into your belly and your low back. And simply notice, where does your breath go easily? And dropping your attention and your awareness and your breath. Invite your hips to feel your breath. All the way in and all the way out. Inviting your legs all the way to your toes to feel the inhalation and exhalation. Noticing your breath moving into your spine, all those nerve endings, all the fluid, all the bones, from that triangle bone at the base of your spine, your sacrum, shares the root word of sacred, all the way up and through your brain. And with the next breath, I invite you to let every cell of your body breathe as one. in connection with the earth. And our theme today is wholeness. Wholeness. Simply notice where in your life, where in your body you feel more wholeness. And where in your life, where in your body you might be feeling less wholeness right now. And as you notice wholeness in your world, I invite you to gently allow wholeness to move into the spaces that might not be fully accepting the idea. That wholeness is right where you are. And simply ask, does wholeness have a color, or a sound, or a texture? And if it does, invite that tangible expression to move further into your cells, into your life. And as you feel filled up with wholeness, invite that wholeness to move further into the lives of your family, the lives of your friends, the lives of your communities. In the CSLGLV family, in the Clark County family, into the state and national and world. What would it look like? What would it feel like if the world believed itself to be whole? And invite that wholeness to spread. Invite the wholeness that truly already is to be a conscious knowing. And so taking a breath, using the next 30 seconds to a minute to complete your journey with wholeness. And as you're ready, I invite you to come back gently, easily, and gracefully, right here, right now, to this time and this place and this moment. Thank you all for joining me, and this concludes our meditation this morning. So hang around, get water, get coffee, use the restroom, whatever, and join us back in 15 minutes for services. Thank you.
Keeping it real, keeping it real. Keeping it real, keeping it real. Keeping it real with Reverend Laura. Keeping it real, keeping it real. Keeping it real, keeping it real. Keeping it real with Reverend Laura.
This is Center for Spiritual Living, Greater Las Vegas. At CSL Greater Las Vegas, it is our mission to inspire spiritual discovery through community connection, exploration, and celebration. This mission supports the all-inclusive vision of Centers for Spiritual Living worldwide, in which we envision a world that works for everyone and all of creation.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living, Greater Las Vegas. I'm Reverend Laura Hallett, and it is my pleasure to be here with you today. What a beautiful day it is. I don't know if anybody else notices it, but it's a lot better when it's under 110 than over 110. You know, I can handle the 105s, but boy, those 115s kind of get to me. It's been glorious. I get up about 5 in the morning with my puppy, and we sit out on the patio, and it is just spectacular out there right now. So about 75 degrees, beautiful. So this is the time we really love being in Las Vegas. So welcome here, and welcome to everybody who's joining us online. Lovely to have you here with us from whatever part of the country and whatever weather you are experiencing today. We're so glad to have you here with us. We're going to start off this morning with our opening song.
Yes, one people.
I'll turn it
so
over
please
to Justin.
stand if you'd like, and we'll get started. Living on one planet, join joining in one family. We all are one. We all are one. We all are one. All right, please greet your neighbor if you're comfortable.
And so now we're going to take a moment and become a little more solemn, going into our invocation, our affirmation, as we open up to the impressive spirit here this morning. Our practitioner of the day is Kelly Capsar, and she'll be giving us our invocation.
Please join me in saying this week's affirmation. I'll read it aloud and then we'll read it together. The infinite loving kindness of Spirit is in me is wholeness in action. The infinite loving kindness of Spirit in me is wholeness in action.
Fill me, God, be thou my grace. Fill me, God, be thou my grace. Fill me, God, be thou my grace. I know God's light shines within me. I know God's light shines within me.
And so continuing in this filled up space of shining on, I simply breathe in, knowing that the wholeness of life, of love, of grace is present right here, right now. It moves through every cell and fiber of my being, every aspect of my life. And so I know the truth of that shining on, that filled up, that wholeness is the truth of every single person who hears my voice, who is simply receptive to the idea that wholeness is right here where they are, where I am, where we are. And so I know that the wholeness of divine, that which creates and maintains and sustains all of life, the trees and the clouds, the waves on the shore, the heartbeat and the breath of every single being. And so I claim this wholeness right here, right now, for each person, for each cell, for every community. And I breathe that knowingness in, allowing it to percolate through my entire being, becoming the remembered embodied truth of who and what I am, who and what you are, who and what we are. And so breathing in, I'm so grateful for all that is becoming. I'm so grateful for this knowingness of wholeness. I'm so grateful for everything that unfolds in this moment right here. And so I simply rest back into the arms of divine. Knowing, absolutely knowing that God's got this. God's got us, and everything is unfolding in the perfection of divine. And so I simply release and surrender into this knowing, into this life. And I let it be. And together we simply say, and so it is.
Fill me, God, be thou my grace. Fill me, God, be thou my grace. Fill me, God, be thou my grace. I know God's light shines within me. I know God's light shines within me. I know God's light shines within me.
Thank you, Kelly and Justin. How beautiful. What a wonderful way to start the morning. So this month we are talking about wholeness as one of our qualities of building a community, of bringing forth something new as our beloved Center for Spiritual Living, Greater Las Vegas. Last week I spoke about wholeness as being a quality that we are all born with, and then life piles on things that make us forget our wholeness, or to not experience our wholeness as much as we would like to. I love our affirmation today written by practitioner Karen Dunphy. The infinite loving kindness of spirit in me is wholeness in action. My talk title today is Wholeness in Action. How do we take this idea of wholeness and actually put it into practical use into our lives? You know, it's one of these things that can seem like it's a lofty idea. And sometimes lofty ideas are hard to bring into reality. It's one thing to think that, but to actually feel it inside of us, and to feel that sense of it, that can be a little more difficult. So generally, wholeness is thought of in two different ways. It's thought of as that fundamental wholeness that we came into being with, that wholeness that that aspect of us that is the divine is always known and always felt. Fundamentally, we are whole and complete. We are perfect when we arrived here. We will be perfect when we leave here. There's nothing needed to be added to our being to make us more whole than we are right now. That's our fundamental wholeness. But then there's this thing called practical wholeness. My Wednesday night talks this month is a whole series on practical wholeness, so if you haven't seen any of them yet, they're really wonderful spiritual practices to actually feel more of this practical wholeness in our life. Last week I spoke about solitude and silence and how we can feel a greater sense of wholeness when we actually engage in solitude, bringing ourselves away from all of the noise and the clutter and the activity that's around us and go into a place of solitude, and then actually that physical act of being silent, where we really don't engage verbally with anyone around us or even talking to ourselves, which is, my thing to do. When we actually can spend some time in the silence, really opening ourselves up to what's available to us, it really can be profound. So this idea of practical wholeness brings with it a sense of dynamic healing, where we can take those issues that have been piled on us through our experience here in this plane, and we can actually begin to heal some of those issues, some of the things that have kept us from feeling our wholeness. It's also about integrating all of our various parts. We have our aspects that are what we might call our inner child, or our shadow side, or our true self. And it's actually this whole idea of practical wholeness is about integrating all those things in there. It's not negating any of them. It's not trying to push them away. What we say here in Science of Mind, that which we resist persists. So when we try to push stuff away, like our shadow side, sometimes it acts up because it doesn't want to be pushed away. And so then we get, our shadow self in all of its glory. Anybody experience that? So this practical wholeness can take two different forms. The first form is natural. It is really easy for us. It doesn't require much work. And it can often feel like a synchronistic or a serendipitous event, something that just happens. I didn't take any effort for it, and we start to see it happening around us, and we start to experience different things in our lives that make us feel that sense of wholeness. And it's very natural, and it's very easy. It doesn't take a lot of work, doesn't take a lot of thought. And sometimes we need to train ourselves a little bit to recognize it as that aspect of wholeness, but it's pretty easy. It's pretty much of a natural way of being. The other form of practical wholeness is intentional. Intentional wholeness shows up when we actively do things to bring it about. So we consciously create experiences in our lives to bring about a greater sense of wholeness. I mentioned our shadow self. A lot of people will engage in what's called shadow work, where we start to uncover those more darker aspects of ourselves and see what caused them, what's wanting to be heard in the situation, what wants to be acknowledged, what wants to be released. But we have to consciously create an experience to allow that to happen, to bring that about. Or we might consciously create a way of nurturing our inner child, that part of us that didn't feel like it got the nurture and the care that it needed as we were developing as human beings. Sometimes we need to do some work to go back and just, be with our inner child. Sometimes it takes the form of doing generational work, where we're looking at things that happened that have become a pattern in our family generation after generation after generation. We began to uncover those patterns and look at those to heal that generational trauma that has happened. That, we didn't have any part of it. We weren't even around then. But the influence of it is showing up in our lives in different ways. And so we can be intentional about doing that. One of the other things that we need to do to be intentional about wholeness is to increase our awareness of our unity. To increase our awareness that we are all one. And we set about doing different activities to help us build that. One of the things that I started doing early on was I didn't feel, I would be in situations and I'd be uncomfortable. And it was just because I hadn't really experienced it, hadn't been in these situations before. And then I came to Centers for Spiritual Living and I heard this song, "You Are the Face of God." It goes, "You are the face of God, I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me, you are the face of God." And so what I started doing to feel more connected to people when I was in an uncomfortable situation is I would sing that song to myself. And I would look at the person. And so I was consciously and intentionally trying to unify myself when I felt uncomfortable in a difficult situation. We actually have to be intentional about creating our experiences of wholeness more than we can rely on that natural part. That natural part's wonderful, and it's really cool when it shows up, and we celebrate that, and we think, wow, this is neat. I want more of this. To have more of it, we have to be intentional. We have to create those situations. The other thing we have to do is we have to kind of go with the flow. Sometimes we're in a situation, and every single part of our conscious ego mind is saying, get out of this. Get out of this. You don't want to be here. You don't want to have to do this. This is more work than you want to have to do. And then there's a part of us, that little niggling voice inside that's saying, you need this. This is really got to be for your highest and greatest good, so go with it. It's not trying to make something happen, but it's going with what is already in motion. Instead of, again, resisting it, and then it just builds. It just builds and builds and builds. And so finding opportunities to be intentional about how we create wholeness can be a really powerful thing that we can begin to engage in. And so there are 6 things that we can do. I was reading some of Parker Palmer's work and stuff on his website. Now I can't think of the name of it. Center for Consciousness, something or another. Anyway, Parker Palmer is one of my favorite authors. Does a lot of work. I talked about him last week a little bit. Anyway, he says there are 6 facets of wholeness. The first one is unity. And in unity, we find opportunities to work together. We have this wonderful community that we're building here, and so we can experience a greater sense of unity when we are engaging in projects together. Another part of unity is recognizing our shared values. And so we talk about the different values that we have here, the different qualities of the divine, if you would. Wholeness being one of our values. We value that. We honor that. Integrity, authenticity, love, peace, joy. All of those things are values that we hold high and dear to our hearts. And so when we can engage in things where we're sharing our values and we recognize those values in each other, that can be a great unifying experience. And of course, there's a sense of belonging that happens when we come together and consciously look at our unity. We feel part of something greater than we are, something that isn't available when we're not with other people in community. And so this idea of unity, this idea that we are one, recognizing that, and sometimes it requires us to be a part of when there's people that we find objectionable too. We might have somebody in our community that kind of rubs us the wrong way. We can push away from them, and again, what we resist persists, or we can embrace them for their uniqueness and the differences that they bring to this collective consciousness that we're forming here. So the second thing is diversity. Not everybody's the same. We all exist in this as this one in our own unique forms, our own unique ways of being. Diversity is rich. Diversity is what makes people thrive, makes communities thrive. Communities that are isolated and have too much of the sameness in them become stagnant. I love, my favorite line in any movie ever is from the movie Robin Hood, one with Kevin Costner. And Morgan Freeman plays the slave who helps, the Muslim slave who helps Robin Hood escape the prison. And so they're in the forest, and the merry men are being merry. You know, they're drinking and they're having a good time. But Morgan Freeman, being a Muslim, doesn't drink, doesn't really engage in that good time that they're having. And so he's sitting under a tree by himself. And this little English girl, probably 3 or 4 years old, walks up to him in her sweet little voice and says, "Why did God paint you black?" And Morgan Freeman looks at her and says, "Because Allah loves wondrous diversity." I love that line because it brings it about. That is so profound to me that, yes, it's because God loves all of this amazing diversity that we have here in this world. Would it not be boring if we all were the same? First off, it'd be hard to keep names straight. Hard enough as it is, exactly. This idea of diversity is what makes organisms thrive. You know, we even look at, you've heard me talk a lot about my little puppy, but as I'm looking at it, my puppy is a mixed breed. And as I was reading and researching, it's actually mixed breed animals are usually more healthy, more intelligent, thrive a little bit better, because when you take something that's the same and you breed it over and over and over again, then it doesn't do anything good for the genetics of that animal. And so I love this idea of having diverse populations where we're not all the same, where we are bringing in different points of view, different opinions, different experiences, different life history, and bringing that into this idea of oneness is so powerful and so profound for us. It brings balance to our collective unity, this idea of diversity. The third point is relationships. Wholeness is built upon having relationships. I talked about that a little bit on my Wednesday night service. Yes, we need solitude, but we can have solitude and still be around other people. We can have solitude and be in relationship. You know, it all depends on how we look at it and how we approach it. We can intentionally increase or decrease the power of our relationships, the benefit that we get from our relationships, the joy that we experience in our relationships. We can intentionally do that one way or another, or we can not be intentional about it and just kind of let it happen and then deal with the consequences of that too. So our relationships, this idea of wholeness, building relationships and being intentional about how we are together with each other can be really a powerful thing for wholeness. And just like with diversity, we are all unique. So uniqueness is an aspect of it. We can take our uniqueness and enhance that and bring it forth into a greater expression. And that will help build, again, that thriving nature of our community because it's not all the same. You know, it's wonderful to have a community like this where we have some people that are skilled in business aspects, and we have some people that are skilled in artistic things, and some people who thrive on service to each other, and people like me that are educators that like to teach and do that kind of stuff, musicians, people that are gifted in our media and marketing. It is so wonderful to have all these unique talents come in and build a thriving community. Can you imagine if we all came together and we were just teachers? I've been in those rooms. Right, Christine? Yeah. The fifth aspect of it is context. Everything always has a context. We have relationships in context with the group that we're working with. Our relationships with other people in a different context will be different relationships. But as we look at this idea of wholeness, we also have to take it in context. Take it in what is appropriate for that particular context that we're in. Things that are taken from one context and placed into another context that doesn't suit it can actually diminish our sense of wholeness. When we try to take our way of being that's in one place out in the world and bring it into a different place. Just for me, I can think of, in the past, my way of being around my family was completely different than my way of being at church. I wasn't bad with my family, it's just I handled things differently. I kept my mouth shut, pretty much. And when I was here with the church family, I was free to express what I wanted to express. But in different contexts, if I had taken that church behavior to home to my family behavior, well, woo-woo was not a nice word back then for us. So, you're just too out there, Laura. You're just too much. And then the last aspect is we have an interior dimension. So we have this wholeness that happens in community, but we also have this interior wholeness that we work on. That's the interiorness that I talked about last week, where it's more of what we came to be in this world. We can develop our interiority in a way that helps us integrate better in different communities than in other communities, or we can not do that and find difficulties when we're going in from one community to another community. So looking at our interior dimension is also a powerful thing that we can begin to work with. As I said, I've been reading a lot of Parker Palmer's work, especially his book, The Inner Wholeness. And in there he talks about when we are together with other people and this idea of showing up as our true and authentic self. When we try not to show up, when we hide our interior dimension, when we try not to let our uniqueness show up in the world, then we can find that stuff starts to happening within us. It can actually even manifest itself as physical ailments within our bodies. Things don't feel like they're in alignment. We are certainly not in the flow. We're certainly not feeling like we need to be in that particular situation, but there's something that's holding us back from doing that. I have worked over the years on this idea of authenticity and showing up as an authentic expression of who I am. And it's been received well in some places and not so well in other places, and in different ways at different times. So, but it became so clear to me that when I was in my authentic expression of myself, I felt so congruent. Felt like I could step out with unapologetic confidence into who I was. And so this, I'd been working with this idea for about 3 years, and I was candidating in St. George, Utah for my first pulpit back in 2019. And I went there dressed very much like I am right now. And now, I'd been to St. George, Utah many times. I'd spoken there many times. Lovely community, beautiful people there. The environment, the place itself is just gorgeous if you haven't ever been there. Red rock, canyons all over the place, and just a lovely place to be. But it's St. George, Utah. So I wasn't sure how I was going to be received living in St. George, Utah. And so when I'm candidating, we do a little talk, and then we have a little Q&A afterwards. And so they asked me if I had any questions for them. And so I only had one question, and I said, so how does this work for you? How does me being who I am work for you? I said, it's okay for you to tell me it doesn't work. It just means this isn't my place. And that's okay. That's good information for me to know. It's good information for you to know. But I am no longer willing, and I said this to him, and it was amazing. I said, I'm no longer willing to change who I am to make anybody else feel comfortable around me. And I got a standing ovation. It didn't pan out quite that well. The community loved me. My church community loved me. There was no problem. But out in the greater community, there were some challenges. I mean, not too bad. I did do prayer at the Mormon Tabernacle twice and opened the symphony and things like that. But I did have a few challenges, mostly in stores. Interesting to see that happen. But anyway, but this idea of being my authentic self made me feel whole. Parker Palmer describes this as the Rosa Parker decision. Rosa Parker's decision. you're familiar with Rosa Parks, who, what was it, 60s, I believe? I'm not real sure the date. Rosa Parks, I'm sorry, thank you. Did I say Parker? I got Parker Palmer and Rosa Parks. Okay, Rosa Parks in Montgomery, Alabama. You remember the year? 1955, thank you. She's coming home from work, she's exhausted, she gets on the bus, and someone tells her she has to give up her seat. And her decision at that moment to stay seated was so much a testament about her belief in her own wholeness that she could not get out of the seat. There was nothing in her that was going to let her get out of that seat. No matter what they threatened, no matter what she was called, no matter how anybody treated her, she stayed in her seat. Because there was something within her that would not let her give up who she was to make anybody else feel comfortable around her. There is an inner wholeness in us that wants to be expressed. And we are our most authentic self when we allow that to be expressed. When we allow ourselves to not be treated in a way that feels out of integrity for who we are. At that particular moment, it may change over time, but in that particular moment, that's who we are. And so I love that phrase, the Rosa Parks decision. Instantly I knew exactly what he was talking about. Yeah, I'm not going to let myself give up who I am to let anybody else feel comfortable around me. This is showing up in our own identity, our own integrity, our own authenticity. It's a refusal to collaborate with anything that diminishes that sense of integrity, my value, my worth, my wholeness. Refusing to collaborate with others in the diminishment of my soul is not going to happen. And I think more of us, as we get through this idea of this being our truth, and this is who we are, and this is how we're going to be, I think our world is going to shift around us. It can be very off-putting to people when you first do it. People will have severe reactions, or they can have severe reactions to you standing up for yourself. But what a powerful thing it does inside of us. To stand up in our own wholeness and to speak our own truth can be one of the most wonderful gifts that we ever give ourselves. Sometimes it takes a lot of work to get to that place. And one of the practices that I've found over the years that has helped me more than anything else is the practice of self-compassion. We all have things about ourselves we don't like. Or maybe I'm the only one, I don't know. There are aspects of our own being, things that we've done in the past, that weigh heavy on us, that kind of keep us stuck in a place. But when we can begin to do that self-compassion work, that, you're okay, and doing the work like the inner child work, where we are compassionate to that wounded part of us that happened in childhood. And I'm not talking even about horrible traumas. They're just things, things that a grandparent may say to you that stay with us, or something a parent does or doesn't do that kind of sticks with us and informs how we behave in the rest of our adult life. And so doing that work, being compassionate to that inner child, being compassionate to ourselves, will allow us to move on to where, like Parker Palmer said, I used the quote last week about the soul, that shy soul will have a chance to come forth and show itself. Maybe just a glimpse of it, but a glimpse is all we need. Sometimes we just need to feel that little tiny nudge of our true self coming through, where we can begin to express it in a more authentic way. It's a process. It's ongoing. I'm still a work in progress. I will be until I exit this planet. That I know, because I'm always changing and growing. I don't want to not be changing and growing. I don't want to be that stagnant place where I think I've got it all figured out and, look how wonderful I am. Yeah, no. So this idea of self-compassion is one of the things that I really like to practice. And so I'd like to do that with you guys today, just a brief little exercise on self-compassion. And so if you would, just take in a couple deep breaths. If you're comfortable, go ahead and close your eyes. I like to close my eyes because it takes me away from all of the outer distractions. And just bring to mind some quality or aspect of yourself that you don't really like. Doesn't have to be a big deal. Maybe there's just something that you would just rather change in your life, something that you don't like right now. And the first part of self-compassion is to be aware of what you're feeling. So it's a mindfulness experience. In mindfulness, we are fully aware of what's happening in the moment. So as you're thinking about this thing, see if you can identify any emotions that come up. Maybe you're feeling hurt. Maybe you're feeling angry, stressed, anxious, ashamed. Whatever that emotion is, just see if you can name that emotion that you're feeling around this aspect of yourself you don't care about. And now recognize that you are in a room with about 40 people who are all right now experiencing some aspect of themselves they don't like. So you are not alone. This is part of our shared humanity. We all have something. And so understanding that we are not alone in any situation can begin to soften the feelings that we have, especially feelings around shame or guilt or unworthiness. Now, if you would, put your hand on your heart or your chest space. I want you to feel the warmth of your hand touching your body. Just know that this is a connection, a place of belonging. Right there in your heart center, you are one with everything. This is where that integral wholeness resides. You may feel your chest moving up and down as you breathe. You may even be able to sense your heartbeat. Knowing that right here and right now, you are in that flow of life. And now just repeat in your head, may I accept this part of me. May I forgive myself. May I be patient and kind. May I have the courage to change what I need to change. May I be compassionate with myself through all of this. And so as you continue to sit with that feeling of compassion, I'm going to go into our treatment. And so right here and right now, I know that each one of us is whole, complete, perfect, We are a divine emanation of the perfection and the wholeness that is, that has always been. Nothing ever diminishes that sense of who we are, because who we are is a perfect emanation of the divine, brought here to do the work of Spirit on earth. We are the hands and the hearts and the eyes and the feet of the beloved as it moves about, creating this world that works for everyone, that works for each one of us individually and all of us collectively. I know that nothing exists outside of this sense of wholeness, and that any appearance of anything that isn't whole is just an illusion, meant to keep us feeling separate. I know that deep within each one of us is a place of loving kindness, a place of compassion and safety, a place where we can experience our authentic self in all of its magnificence. It is the nature of who we are, and it is why we've come here, to simply be that loving presence. For as we are that loving presence with ourselves, we silently give others permission to do the same, to be that place for themselves. I know that each one of us is divinely appointed to this time and this space, and that there are no mistakes in the heart of God. And so I just give great thanks for this knowing, for the willingness of each person to show up and be that magnificent creation that they are. And I release this word into the law, knowing it is complete. I let it be and I let it go. And together we say, and so it is. You know, it's wonderful when we can take that opportunity to simply be and allow ourselves a gentle place to see what can unfold in our lives. Take that time off with yourself. You know, if you start to feel it, anything that doesn't feel like it's whole or perfect inside of you, put your hand on your heart and give yourself a moment to be compassionate, to be kind, to be patient, to be loving to yourself. All right, we're going to go into the time of sharing our offerings. We have many ways that you can do this. You can do it online if you are interested in doing that. Our wonderful admin in the back, Kelly Marshall, is here. She could help you after service. We are gratefully receive your cash or check donations here today, and we are blessed. So if you would, hold your offering over your heart. If you've already given electronically, go ahead and just put your hands on your heart. Repeat after me. This gift I give goes forth from me. Does amazing and miraculous things. And returns to me in kind. Pressed down and overflowing. And so it is. Justin's got some music.
God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. Love is my source. Love is my power. Love gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. Love gives me everything I need. Joy is my source. Joy is my power. Joy gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. Joy gives me everything I need. Peace is my source. Peace is my power. Peace gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. Peace gives me everything I need. Last time, God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. God gives me everything I need. God gives me everything I need.
Ooh, yeah. Ah, okay, just a few announcements before we finish up this morning. What?
I've got money to give.
All right, yay. We have a special announcement.
I have the neatest announcement, guys. Remember last week when I said I would match any money that you donated to the Labyrinth? Somebody came up to me and they want to do the same thing.
Triple
So
the
now
funds.
Your
Triple the
money
funds.
is tripled. If you give $5, $15 will be there. Yours plus mine plus the anonymous donor. If you give $20, it'll be worth a value of $60. $100, $300. Well, last week we had donors that contributed $250. Here's my check for $250.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
We got a few more weeks to do this. It's through the end of August.
And
So
we
I'm
just-
excited.
We just received a $200 check this morning in the mail, so that's $600 more.
Yeah,
All right.
I'll cover that 200
Yeah,
next week.
next week,
because
yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You can see the chart over here. We're more than halfway through. We want to get up to $20,000 here, and we're a little over 11,000 right now. So we are moving. We're hoping to finish this off before the end of the month, and so it'll be exciting to have everything paid for as we move into our new space. And speaking of our new space, some folks wanted to see pictures, and since we don't have the whole slideshow capability right now, I went old school and printed some out, and they're back there by the door. So if you'd like to see what our sanctuary looks like, the first two pictures on the top, one is the sanctuary from the platform, and the other one's from the door as you enter in. And then at the bottom is a picture of the foyer, our entryway, and our main office on the right side. So if you're interested in looking at the pictures of our building, there's some of them over there for you. We'll do this periodically, take pictures. Joe was there this weekend, and he said the HVAC stuff was all going in, so all of our air conditioning conduits and ducts and everything are going in right now, so we're excited. Fran and I went to what a wholesaler store anyway, and picked out flooring. So we've got flooring already picked out. It's going to be a beautiful wood grain floor through most of the building, and just a little carpet on the platform and so forth. So it'll be wonderful. We got tile in the bathrooms, that kind of stuff, but it's all beautifully coordinated. It was such a lovely process to go through that. So our building is moving right along. Again, we're hoping to be in there by October, or sometime in October. One exciting thing was we've already booked our first event. So as you know, we belong to the Interfaith Forum, Interfaith Council, and they do a forum every fall, and we will be hosting the very last one. I told them, well, let's give us the one in November so that we have plenty of time to get seated. So we will be hosting the last Interfaith Forum in our new building this year. So it'll be exciting to have that happen. That's where we, people from multiple faiths come together and talk about a topic. So it's really interesting. So our flowers today are sponsored by me in honor of all of our wonderful volunteers. Our appreciation for our volunteers is just overwhelming. All of the people that serve, like Evelyn, who's here almost every week as an usher and greeter. We have our practitioners that are in service. Our wonderful media, music, and marketing team and I are going out to lunch today. They are fabulous people that are partly paid and partly in service to our community, and all of you that volunteer in all the different ways that you do to lovingly support us. We certainly appreciate that. So thank you all for that. All right, benediction and a song. Okay, would you rise, please? If you want to hold hands, that's great. If you don't, that's okay too. No judgment here about that. And would you repeat after me? Something wonderful is happening through me right now.
Something wonderful is happening through me right now.
It is this thing called wholeness.
It is this thing called wholeness.
Wholeness is in my mind.
Wholeness is in my mind.
Wholeness is in my heart.
Wholeness is in my heart.
Wholeness is in all that I do.
Wholeness is in all that I do.
I am it.
I am it.
I share it.
I share it.
And I'm becoming more of it
And I'm becoming more of it.
each and every day.
Each and every day.
Thank you, wholeness.
Thank you, wholeness.
Use me.
Use me, oh God, I stand for you, and here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. Use me, oh God, I stand for you, and here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. All right, sing it up now. Use me, oh God, I stand for you, and here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. Show me all that I must do. Show me all that I must do. Show me all that I must do.
Have a lovely week, everybody. Thanks so much. Please help us put the chairs and tables back.